Hi, today we're going to be taking a look at a brand new feature in testRigor called Live Mode. Now, this is based on a existing feature, which was a Chrome extension that you could install onto your browser to allow users to simply record the actions going through a application to interact with different fields and capture data that was on there. Only problem with that was that sometimes the security departments would say you're not allowed to put in a Chrome extension. You have to use it the way it is. So we added live mode in order to get around that. There are two different ways that you can interact with live mode. You could launch it directly from the console on the left, or you can click on debug, which will essentially grab all of the steps from your test and automatically transfer it into live mode. If I click on live mode over here, it gives us a few options before we actually get started. First, you can choose the operating system and the browser that you want to use to develop your script on. We generally recommend using Linux Chrome as the system, but you could pick any of these, including Firefox, Edge, or Safari on Windows and Mac operating systems. If you happen to have a data-driven test, you can select the data-driven file and then choose which line of data that you want to use to interact with this application. Let's go back over to our test case, which is having an issue. It seems that we can get the first three steps going, but the last one is having a problem. This click on the outlet meals. So I'll click on the debug button over here, and we will jump over to live mode. We can see that live mode has added the 4 lines that we have in the test, and it has jumped to the landing page of our application, which happens to be Best Buy. Now, as we get started, here's a few tips to make this experience a whole lot easier. 1, there is a double arrow button that is at the top screen. Click on that, and the console will remove itself, giving us much more space. If this is still too small for you to interact or see, we would just drag this slider control over, and you can see the browser gets much larger to interact with it. The actual resolution of the browser does not change. It doesn't matter. Now, we've got these steps in here. We're clicking on outlet deals somewhere on that screen, I presume. We're going to enter laptops into what can we help you find. We're going to see if we can find products for laptops in quotes, and then click on outlet meals. One other tip that we're going to have you do is we can hit change the maximum wait timeout. Now, this goes to the default. It's always 30 seconds. And what that default means is that it will wait up to 30 seconds for something that hasn't yet appeared on the screen to be displayed. But since we're kind of just experimenting here, 3 or 1 seconds is usually enough to interact with the website itself. I'd also recommend changing the refresh screenshot from 3 to every 1 second. There's a few other drop downs over here. We'll get into them as we go along. So the next thing is we can execute all these lines and see what happens. First thing is to go and click on outlet deals. And outlet deals was selected. It went by a little fast, but here we can see the screen where click outlet deals was the command executed, and this is the button that was hit. The next thing was to enter laptops into what can we find today. And yes, as a matter of fact, laptops was displayed and entered into that field. If we go back, we can see that that was empty and it said, what can we help you find today? The next thing was to verify that the page contains products for laptops, and it has to include a a double quote inside of that string. And sure enough, here it is, products for double quote laptops. All right, so we've experimented with the test case as it goes, but we are also getting this error that says we cannot find outlet meals. No, we meant outlet deals. And in fact, that wasn't even on the front page, the first page of this. There is no outlet deals listed here. So the first thing is we need to get rid of that line. Anything that fails does not get into the history list over here. It does report it that it failed, but the actual statement won't. So you can experiment with this as much as you want. The failing steps won't get into your process. I'm going to delete that. And as I said, this is an interactive page. So maybe what I want to do is go and click on account. I'm clicking on account near the leading icon, and that's relative element location. We could just say click count and it would likely find it, but we can also see exactly what testRigor does when we're asking it to just click on that element. I didn't have to type anything. I just clicked on the account and it found that element there. Now there might be a few things we want to do in a process. So the next thing we'll talk about is the default execution is that when you click on something over here, command gets generated and it automatically executes. But maybe we want to do a couple of things. So in this case, I might want to verify that the words get more with a Best Buy account appears on that screen. Why don't I just click on it and what happens? testRigor automatically creates the line, check if the page contains get more with a Best Buy account. It's pretty easy. I still haven't had to type anything. And then the next thing I want to do is click on create account. If I click on that, testRigor gives me the two statements. It's going to check that this is here and click on create account. We can see create account was highlighted there and it is now moved to the next page. And here is where we are looking at our main page to interact with. Oh, this is great. Now all I have to do is enter some value. You know, maybe I don't have to type all that in. What if I just clicked on first name? And it says generate unique name, that enter into first name and save as generated first name. This is saying that it's going to create a name and then enter it into the element first name and then save it as a variable, a global variable. Oh, I'm not crazy about generated first name. I'm just going to call it first name. I'll use some camel casing in there. We'll say first name there. All right, so I'm going to execute this. And what happens? It created a unique name called first name in here. Oh, I definitely want to add a password. So I'm going to click on confirm password. In this case, testRigor figured out that I probably want to just maybe generate a random password. And check this out. That's a template. That's really close to a regular expression, and don't get too scared because we do support regular expressions, but a template is a simplified version of that. There's only 3 or 4 items that it has to do. If you want to read more about those, you can go to documentation and just do a search for template. Here are the simple templates, explaining the 5 values that are used to create ranges of numbers or just a random selection of alphanumeric characters. Now back to the fun stuff. This is the AI getting a little worried about what it wants to name that saved variable. Let's just call it my password. That looks good. And it's saying entered into warning, pressing this button will display the password. It actually took a look at this object here rather than the full element here. Well, that's really not what we want to do. It's the AI being as smart as an AI gets. Trust me, AIs are not as smart as everyone thinks it is. But it gets you 80% of the time. It gets the right stuff. But in this case, we want to enter it into the field below email address. That looks much better. Let's execute it and see if it actually puts it into the password field. Boom. We got it into the password field, but we also need to put it into the confirm password field. How should we do that? Here's our next trick. We're going to change this command from execute input automatically to let me modify input values. So at this point, we can enter in the saved password into that same field. By typing enter saved value, my password into confirm password. Does it do it? And it sure does. One more thing we should do is to enter in an email address. If I click on this, we get a new field. And it says, what would you like to put in there? Well, maybe paul.grossman@testrigor.com. And I can enter that and execute it. And there it goes. My email is entered into the email field. Perhaps we've saved my last name as a variable. Let's enter in my last name, but this time from a saved variable. I'm going to turn this on for a variable and put in last name and click enter. Enter stored variable, last name into last name. Does it get Grossman in there? It sure does. As we said, this is really good for experimentation. So let's pretend that we can't actually find your passwords match. Let's see if we can do it with optical character recognition, OCR. And the way we do that is by checking the page contains password match using OCR. Now, if the object is really physically there, it will find it by its object and will highlight it. However, if it just happens to be a picture or image, OCR may or may not pick up the object. See what it said. Password contains password match. Oh, I didn't even spell it right. Well, that's why we experiment. Let's try it again. Passwords match. Now, OCR uses optical character recognition to identify the text and the element. You've seen it highlight in green. Let's take a look. In this case, it did find it. But in some cases, you may not have an element that is actually the letters on the screen. Best Buy with a yellow tag. How might we click on that? Well, one way we might do it is through AI. And this becomes a great proving ground for testing out the AI capabilities of testRigor. Will it find the object in the upper left-hand corner? It does. Highlights it and even gives a small red dot indicating exactly where it went to pick that up. Right there. All right, we've shown off pretty much everything that testRigor can do with live mode with one exception, which is what we call the last ditch scenario. Let's say we want to click a button, but none of anything that we've tried is working. And by the way, I haven't come across a situation where that's actually been the case. But in case there is, there's one last mode you can go into. Generate locator options. And what that does is it gives you the coordinate of where you clicked. So let's say I want to click on this object here. And it tells me this is a blue assist, clear, fixed, blue assist 1. And I couldn't even tell it to click it as an Amazon Echo Pop device. No, but what we could do is click at the coordinates. This is automation 1999. If I say click the element with coordinates here, it will click there. Again, this is the last ditch effort. It is not the primary way that you would interact with an element in live mode. And there's our dot for our click there. The actual actionable area is here. That's why we didn't move on to any new particular field or page. All right, we've covered just about everything we want to do. What's our last step? We want to finish the session and save. It'll ask you to confirm that's exactly what you want to do. It says the interactive session is complete and will take you to where the test has been created. It always starts with the name live mode, and because we did a debug, it adds the name of the test that we initially put in as the name of the test. This is also where we see the history of the runs of the test case. Now we had a failure. Let's go back and take a look. Oh, we're doing the password match. That wasn't in there. All right. Let's take that password match out. It was after saving Grossman as the last name. So there's save Grossman, it's the last name, and we want to check the page contains password match. Let's give this another run. And there are all our executions, and they have all passed. And the entire live session itself has passed. Well, there you go. That is live mode in a nutshell. Thank you for watching this demo. I hope you have yourself a great day. Cheers.